Good morning, I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is Monday, June 15th, and I'm here in Valhalla at the offices of Liberty Lines with Neil Erickson, who's the Executive Vice President of Liberty Lines. We're here to begin our COVID conversation, first one of the week, and to talk a little bit about the role of mass transit here in Westchester County. And when we think of mass transit, we think of the B-Line bus system. Neil, your operation here, a very elaborate operation with a number of buses, 300 some odd, that serve the Westchester lines. When we look at mass transit in general, we're thinking of the New York City subway system, the Metro North system. You can see the logistical challenges to be out and serve the public and make sure the public feels comfortable enough to go out into the system. You know, so now that you're returning to full service today with the B-Line bus system, what are some of the things that you encountered in trying to be ready to have full service out there?
Well, you know, obviously one of the things when we go back to full service, we want to think about the protection of the driver as well as the passengers. So obviously we have signs posted, which DOT has provided for us to advise everyone that they need to wear a mask. We're continuing to isolate the driver in front of the passengers, the front 10 feet of the bus. But at the same time, we are now going to retrofit. We have 78 buses that currently have a shield for the operators. There's another 243 which we're in the process of retrofitting. We're working with two companies. One is a local company and another company in Indiana to try and get that done so that at some point we can open the front door and continue that process. We're also making suggestions as to how people should be seated in the bus for each person's protection.
The reality of keeping the buses clean is now at a much higher level than it would normally be. The buses are usually, clean for any normal standards of cleanliness, but now we have to worry about sanitizing it at a different level. How has your procedures to deal with that changed?
Well, initially in 2009, we started using a cleaner, which was a disinfectant, which we clean the buses every night. We are now cleaning them after every use in the street. When they come back to the garage, they are put through the whole disinfectant process. We're also in the process of purchasing a defogging machine that they're called Clorox 360s, which we can go in and disinfect the entire bus, and the entire fleet actually. We ordered 6 units. In terms of the facilities themselves, we have also purchased a number of, they're called Casper units, and essentially they cleanse the air. And we will purchase 6 of those for both facilities. So we are upping our game in regard to making sure that the buses are clean. We're also looking at some other possibilities in terms of what we can do that the buses can be cleaned while they're in operation. Something that would be done through the HVAC system. So we're constantly working on this. It's not something that we're forgetting about because this is a serious issue we're facing.
Well, it also sounds like technology, as always, is what we sort of lean on, that there'll be new technologies, you'll be able to figure out how to best bring them into play.
Absolutely.
These things.
Absolutely.
The challenge is, I mean, it's not your direct responsibility to deal with the New York City subway system, but this is the second largest, municipal bus system in the state after the New York City bus system. What would some of the problems be that New York City has that is greater than the problems that we have here in Westchester? Because we do hear that the MTA is really struggling to try to, maintain their system rolling and functioning. Is it just the size and scope of what they have to do?
I think some of that is true. I think it's the volume, but I think it may also be in their procedures. We have very different procedures with our facility and with our maintenance crew. So I think we've always been ahead of the game with that. We've always been thinking in advance. And I go back to 2009 again, where we started to increase the materials that we use for cleaning, and now we've increased the frequency of which we do. The way we operate our system allows us to do that without much interruption. I think for the city of New York and MTA, it's a much bigger job.
Now, obviously, there's a fall off in ridership because much of the economics of the systems have been shut down. Businesses are starting to reopen now, so you're starting to see some play. Just give us a little flavor of what the ridership impact was of COVID coming in, and then now as we slowly start to reopen afterwards.
there was an incredible drop in service. In ridership. We saw probably an 85% drop in ridership.
Has that been anything like that in your career that you've ever seen like this?
I have never seen this in my career. Even in 2009, I don't think we saw anything like this. I have really, this is just new to me. However, we are seeing an increase in ridership. We see people beginning to take the bus more and more. Obviously there are people that still need to get to work, and that's why this becomes such an important function for us to make sure that people get back and forth.
And I gather that a number of people that use the system use it to connect into the New York City system, whether it's the Metro North Rail or the New York City subway system at a couple of different promotion points. I grew up not far from the 241st Street subway, White Plains Road, number 5 train, and I remember seeing buses that would come out of Westchester that would stop there all the way down to 233rd Street and would make that connection. So I assume that's part of the realities.
Yep, we still do, and also over the number 1 line over at 242nd Street and Broadway. So we are continuing to do that. It's the way we get people to work and back, and back. We are primarily a commuter service.
Now, there's also been a lot of advancement in terms of the type of buses. The county has benefited from federal grants, state grants to help us convert the bus fleet. And conversion is certainly underway in terms of hybrid buses and electric buses. As a professional in the field, how do you see that process playing out? Not just for what's on the table now, but as we go to the future. Is this the way we're going to be going as an entity?
I believe so. I think we are now dealing with many more hybrid buses than we did before. This new fleet of 78 articulated buses that we brought in are phenomenal. They are just amazing machines, and their mileage, the miles per gallon on the fuel has increased enormously, because basically they're electric buses and the generators are just fueled by diesel.
Right.
So we're not using as much fuel to use these buses. We're now also going to be, we're talking with DOT, they're beginning to look at bringing in some electric buses, totally electric, and we're going to see what that future brings. I think the more the technology improves, the more we're going to see that kind of a bus. We're not going to see diesel buses anymore.
Right. The routes that we have include a number of places for which the slope becomes a bit of an issue, the steepness of the slope. Certainly on the western side of the county, we see it in places like Yonkers, we see it in Ossining and so forth. What does the topography represent as a challenge for being able to have both the type of horsepower within the buses that you need and the transition when you do have routes that, assuming good weather, because you'll have snow routes when you have bad weather, that you still have to negotiate some steep slopes?
I think that was more true of the past. I think what we're seeing, particularly with the new articulated buses, they have the amount of horsepower and torque to handle these hills very well. And I think, again, as the technology improves, we're going to see more and more of that, and it's going to be less of an issue. Normally, it used to be, it would even be an issue for some of our diesel buses, in Yonkers and the hills. But I think that's becoming less and less of a hindrance because of the changes in technology.
Any particular things that you're looking at once we get back to normal, whatever normal is? That would be certain things that you're planning to do that you hope would be advancements for the ridership or for the workers in the operation.
Well, we continue to do that constantly anyway. We're always looking at running times, how we can better improve the system. Obviously, the type of equipment that we're using is a huge help to that. But we will continue. There's nothing specifically on the radar right now except the movement toward electric buses. I think that's the change that we're going to see in the next few years.
We may have enough on our plate right now. Don't worry about anything else.
Absolutely.
All these things.
Absolutely.
Well, Neil, thank you for taking a few minutes of time with us. We deeply appreciate it. The county and Liberty Lines has a great partnership. I know that we have our contractual arrangements that take us for another X number of years, 3.5 years, and I'm sure we'll continue this partnership long after I'm out of my position and my successors come in and see the value of this arrangement.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We've been talking to Neil Erickson, who's the Executive Vice President of Liberty Lines. The B-Line bus system is back to full scheduling as of today, Monday, June 15th. Very much impacted by the COVID crisis, and more because the various businesses were closing down. When we had all of these different businesses closed down, people didn't need to use the bus system to go to work, so we cut back on scheduling. Now that we're reopening the society, we're also getting back to where we want to be with our buses. The bus system is still rear entrance only, as we're speaking today for the foreseeable future, and also the bus system is operating without fare. So if you ever wanted to see exactly what a Beeline bus was, you don't have to pay money to do it right now. And it's a great opportunity for you to realize many of the different the advantages of taking a bus, depending on where you are and where you're going. Anyway, I'm George Latimer, Worcester County Executive. We'll be back at 2 o'clock for our normal update. We'll also have Mayor Peter Shearer, Village of Pleasantville, will be our municipal partner for that conversation. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening in that community. We'll give the updated statistics. We'll have some other information. We'll reinforce some of the decisions we've made in some areas of county government, and then we'll take it from there. So be safe. See you at 2 o'clock.